Good afternoon, everybody. On behalf of our CEO, Peter Misford, and the team at Local Buy, I would like to welcome you to the pre-tender briefing today for LB327 Training Services and LB328 People and Wellbeing Services, Human Resources. So these will be brand new contracts going to market. They have been split from a former contract. If you are a current supplier on that contract, please ensure you reapply when these go to market 1st of February. So there will be a little bit on that later on today. This session is being taped. However, please be aware that sometimes due to technical difficulties and my lack of technical ability, it can take a few days to get uploaded to the site. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which we work and live and recognise their continuing connection to land, water and community. We pay respect to elders past, present and emerging. So to introduce your team today online, we have your category manager, Michael Franzmann, Audrey Dobell, who is your Customer Relationship Manager for North Queensland and Northern Territory, and myself, Liz McFarlane. I look after South Queensland and Tasmania. Our contact details are online there. Otherwise, you will have our details in your email to join us for this briefing. Otherwise, also available on the Local Buy site. So why are you here today? Well, the Local Buy pre-tender briefing is to provide you, a potential supplier or often current supplier, an outline of the arrangement and the streamlined process of becoming a pre-qualified supplier on a Local Buy arrangement. This is something new that we've started to do. We did do them a number of years back, but we found there was a demand to actually go through what is outlined in those documents. Being aware that this tender will be open 1st of February, for you to view. Until then, it will not be available online. Those details we will give of how to access that tender shortly. So some of the things that we'll be going through: who is Local Buy and what is a pre-qualified arrangement, and why are our arrangements important? An outline of the categories, including the term of contract, the platforms we use for you to respond to this tender, key things you need to remember when applying for a Local Buy tender, and of course, where you can go for support. So who is Local Buy and what is a pre-qualified arrangement? Well, we were established in 2001 by the Local Government Association of Queensland, or LGAQ as you may know them, to meet the needs of local government with the procurement process. Our arrangements enable councils and government authorities to purchase a broad range of products and services from pre-qualified preferred suppliers without needing to undertake a tender process or request multiple quotes. We are profit for purpose, so all profits are returned to our parent company, LGAQ. So Local Buy arrangements are an exception under Section 234 of the Local Government Regulations for purchases of any size. So whether it be 1 cent to $1 billion, they are an exemption under that rule, meaning once you go through that full tender process, council only need to engage in a quote. You are no longer called to tender. So sometimes we get quite pragmatic about the terminology. So when this goes to market, you'll be tendering. After that, you become a pre-qualified supplier and you will only need to quote, not go through that full tender process with council. So what did the Queensland audit find? And this is why we find that buyers use Local Buy, or one of the many things probably. So it was published last year that procurement and contract management practices are very weak. And I won't read all through that. But ultimately, you can see there approximately $8 billion in procuring goods and services from various suppliers goes through local government. You can see the common weaknesses there. And audits by the Queensland Audit Office, councils are subject to those annually, as well as a number of other internal audits. So that's why it's also very important when you are engaging with council or any buyer for that matter, that you ask them if it's under the local buy contract and you quote that local buy contract number on every document. Because what happens when the Queensland Audit Office comes through is they're looking for that trail, for that documentation in the local buy contract, because as a pre-qualified supplier, you're now an exemption to that rule. So that's what we need to see and council need to see on all paperwork moving forward. So local buy is establishing a register of pre-qualified suppliers for a local government arrangement for the provision of LB327 training services and LB328 people and wellbeing services, human resources. So that first contract, training services, both Queensland, of course, and Northern Territory will also be a party to that. But for people and wellbeing services, that will be for Queensland only. And this will assist purchasers in managing their individual requirements. And as you can see there, it replaces the current BUS278 for human resources and employee services. Please make sure if you are a current supplier, you must reapply. You must reapply on the 1st of February under the various categories. So the intent of these new arrangements is to provide councils and our other purchasers, where applicable, with access to you as suppliers of all these services. So the local buy arrangement can be accessed by the following organisations. So all 77 Queensland councils, regional organisations of councils, or ROCs as we call them, the government-owned corporations, state government departments, agencies and statutory authorities, water and port authorities, charities and not-for-profit organisations, universities and schools, and Northern Territory and Tasmanian councils where they choose to participate, and large privately owned corporate entities who have been approved to use the contracts. I'm now going to hand over to Michael, and Michael will go about speaking to you about the arrangement, its release to market, the terms and the various details contained in that form of tender.
And thanks, Liz. So the two new arrangements coming out, LB327 training services and LB328 people and wellbeing services, human resources. It will go to tender 1st of February. What will happen then is you'll have the whole month of February to lodge your online tender applications. March, we'll do all of the evaluations. April, all the appointments will be made, and successful suppliers will be up and running. The contract will commence on the 1st of May 2023. So the initial term of the LGA arrangement is 3 years. So commencing 1st of May 23 and expiring 30th of April 2026. And these arrangements have the option of 2 extension periods of up to 36 months each. So effectively, the contract will run for 9 years. It's not anticipated at this stage that we will be going out to market or not taking up those options. So, and if that's the case, this contract will remain operational until the 30th of April 2032. The beauty of that is that you guys, once you're appointed to the arrangement, you don't have to respond to any more tenders for those services until we go out to market again for new arrangements. So the categories for the training services. So there's 4 categories on this contract. Category A is for accredited training. So that will be for registered RTOs. So that covers all of your Cert 1 courses through to your advanced diploma, the units of competence and skill sets. Category B, so that'll be all non-accredited training, short courses, bespoke courses, and professional development training. So what's listed here is a guide as to what training services will be offered. That is just a guide. There could be, basically anything else could be included in there as well. So if it's a non-accredited course or a short course. So that's just an overview or a snapshot. Councils may require other courses that aren't in there, but it sort of is very broad in scope, that one. Category C, we split this out, health and safety training. We've kept that separate. So again, that's lists some of the scopes of the training that's included in there. So you'll note that we've covered off pretty much everything in there at this stage, including forklift training and hazardous awareness, incident investigations, traffic control and management courses as well. So everything's covered under that one for health and safety. And the last category for this one, category D, it's for learning and development consulting services. So as I've got listed there, professional development, coaching and mentoring, compliance framework development, implementations, training plan developments, etc. So that's the LB327. The next one at 328 is people and wellbeing services, human resources. What I should add, is that all of the services that are currently under the BUS278, which is expiring, will be covered and included in these new arrangements. So category A for this one is HR services, but that excludes permanent, temporary recruitment, labour hire and training services. We have separate arrangements in place for recruitment, as well as the training, obviously, and labour hire. So again, that's just some of the things that are covered under the HR one. We've expanded it out to include outsourced HR management services. It includes relocation services. So there's a few more things in there than we had before. And HRIS information systems as well, so we can cover that. Category B, industrial relations, employee relations services. Again, that's been split out separately to show that as a separate category, so that anyone looking for those services can easily find it. Category C, health and wellbeing services. So this is all your corporate health programs, your EAP. We've included other things such as eye checks, hearing checks, health checks, mental and wellbeing services, skin checks, anything, and vaccinations as well. So there's a few extra areas in there than we had previously listed. Category D, health and safety, workplace health and safety services. So that includes outsourced health and safety management services, audits and systems, psychosocial risk management, which is very popular at the moment, and incident reporting, medical assessments, the whole lot. So that's all listed in there. And as I said before, it's these are just to guide these services, and there could be other things that will fit in there that councils may require. Category E, remuneration and benefits and salary packaging services. So that covers stuff like your annual incentive planning and implementation, financial planning, salary packaging services, your novated leases, which were there previously, your outsourced payroll services, super planning, staff reward systems and programs, and in transition to retirement programs for staff. So it's basically the what's included in the arrangements. So general conditions of contract. So your contract with local buy, in the general conditions, when you download the tender documents from APET 360. One of them will have the general conditions of contract as well as the purchaser's conditions of contract. So the GCCs will actually have the important details about the contract on there. So contract number, the arrangement commencement date, the expiry date, details about the extension periods, minimum insurance levels, contract managed percentage, verification fees, pricing schedules, category managers contacts, and purchasers conditions as well. So pricing, we're requiring all tenderers to submit pricing for their services and products with this tender submission. So tenderers can either complete the pricing schedule that we attach, the template, or you can provide your own pricing schedule document. Either or, it doesn't matter, that's fine. All prices submitted have to be in Australian currency and be GST exclusive. And all the prices are fixed and firm and are not subject to a rise for the initial 3 months of the contract term. Any variations to that after that 3 months will be as per the provisions in the general conditions of contract. And it's fairly easy. If you need to change prices, you basically submit a request through to myself with the new pricing schedule. We'll review it, compare it to the other one, and if it's reasonable or there's reasonable justification for the increase, that will be approved and reloaded, so that the purchasers can actually view that. So all the prices should be a best possible pricing and the maximum rates that can be charged. So purchasers may elect to negotiate pricing down directly with suppliers for package deals based on specific requirements like volumes of supply. Purchasers may also offer a 1 or 2 year contract to a supplier within this as well, so they can offer exclusive purchaser conditions of contract arrangements. So even though we have a standard general PCCs, purchasers can actually put their own conditions or purchasers' conditions, which will then take precedent over local buys. So purchasers can obtain competitive pricing for services by utilising the arrangements via a request for quote, and they will be documenting all these specific requirements so that suppliers can actually respond to the requests. So quality assurance. So all suppliers must provide details of management of systems in relation to quality assurance, health and safety, environmental. These are mandatory questions that will be in the online tender. So what we say is, if you have got the ISO or third-party qualifications, that's fine. You can attach that certificate. If you don't have it, we'll accept if you've got a policy document for quality assurance or health and safety or environmental policy, you can attach that. Or if you don't have that in place, you can provide a detailed description of what your systems are in relation to those 3 areas there. So these are minimum. If you can't meet these requirements, and if you can't provide any of that information, your application won't progress beyond that point. Membership of an industry body or association relative to the services provided will be highly regarded. Suppliers must comply with relevant standards, rules, and code of conduct or ethics for the industry body or association relevant to the services they're providing. And it's the responsibility of the supplier to check any publications for the current version of standards or industry bodies association rules of conduct or code of conduct. Minimum insurance levels. Now for these arrangements, we've set the public liability is at 20 million. Professional indemnity, most of our contracts are usually $2 million, but we've understand that there's a lot of small businesses that may be tendering. So the PI insurance for that will be $1 million per claim and in the annual aggregate. and then obviously statutory work cover insurance. Now, if you are a sole director of a company and you don't have work cover, you will be able to just put something on letterhead, just stating the reasons why you don't need to hold work cover, and attach that later on. Now, if you're successful, you'll need to provide these insurance certificates once you've been appointed to the arrangement. So you've been successful, you've gone through the evaluation process. Once that happens, you'll be asked to upload these documents into the vendor panel system, and then they will be checked then to make sure that everything is compliant. So you won't need to do anything until after you receive notification that you've been successful. Verification fees. So obviously, unless you hold a valid exemptions, the verification fees are set out below and included in Schedule A. Supplier verification fee for new suppliers, it will be $500 payable on contract commencement for new suppliers. Current suppliers, it'll be $250. Now, if a current supplier already has responded to tenders and been appointed to other panel arrangements, that fee won't apply. So it will be $250 for 1 or 10 contracts, however many you're on. So that's a change from what we had previously, which was about $600 per arrangement. So now it will be an ongoing fee of $250 regardless per supplier, regardless of how many arrangements they're on. So $250 payable annually. The verification fee exemptions. So in the tender, you'll be provided with an eligibility exemption form. So if you've got less than 20 full-time staff and have a turnover of less than $2 million in the previous financial year, if you're a registered charity, Indigenous-owned business, or a social business registered with social traders, you are exempt from paying those annual fees. So we ask that suppliers complete that, or tenderers complete that document and submit at the time of the tender. If you don't submit it, that's fine. We can accept that at a later date. Contract management percentage. So the fee for these arrangements is 1.5%, which is no change from what it was previously. So that will mean each month you need to log into the portal on our Local Buy website, the reporting portal, and just lodge any business that you've undertaken through the contract. If you've invoiced during that period, you just need to record that. Now, we do have a compliance team that checks that to make sure everyone is completing it. If you don't have anything to submit or any returns to submit that month, you just submit a nil return. It's a fairly easy process and it'll take less than a minute or two to do. So the first step in responding to a local buy arrangement for new suppliers, existing suppliers should already have a vendor panel account. But for new suppliers, the first step is to create a vendor panel account. Vendor panel is where we send out all our notifications, and it's where our buyers can actually access the lists and list of suppliers and information about suppliers once they're appointed. So once you're registered in vendor panel, you'll appear in vendor panel marketplace. Now, that doesn't mean that you're a pre-qualified supplier. Marketplace is not a pre-qualified supplier list. It's like a yellow pages. So your business could be listed in marketplace, but unless you actually complete the tender and be appointed to a tender under a local buy arrangement number, you will not be covered under a local buy or considered to be a local buy supplier. or would be covered by the contract or legislative exceptions. So why we use vendor panel? Obviously, to receive notice, it sends you notifications when we release tenders. You'll also receive RFQs from councils when they wish to purchase through a local buy arrangement. The next step in the process will be to open the link to the APET 360 Pro system and view and download tender documents and complete your online tender application. Now, we have included a link there. We will be sending a copy of this presentation out to everyone. Once you click on that link, it will bring up a list of all of the tenders that will be going to market for that particular month. You just need to go down and locate the LB327 or LB328, click on that. If you don't have an APET account, it will then take you back to this portal here to get you to sign up and register for an APET account. Once you've registered, you can go in and complete your online tender application through that. We don't accept manual tender applications. We'll only accept tenders through the online portal, and the tender closing date will be 2 p.m. Brisbane time at the 28th of February for this tender coming up. So anything after that, the system won't allow you to go in and submit a late tender. So as I mentioned before, first thing to do now, go in and register in Vendor Panel, create a Vendor Panel account if you haven't. The first day of the month, on the 1st of February, that link will become active. It won't become active before that. You can go in there and download the tender documents, submit your tender applications. So that will be in February. The second month, we will evaluate all of the submissions, and then the third month, appointment notifications will go out from our contracts team, and then the contract will commence on the 1st of May. So keep an eye on your emails. These are some of the things. You could get a notification email from APET software. It could go to your junk mailbox, but please just check that. If you do see something coming through from notifications at APET, it isn't a scam email. It is the notifications that go out. The same as the ones coming from Vendor Panel, they'll advise you as well. So make sure you check all those. So things you need to remember when you're making your tender submissions: give yourself enough time to complete the tender. You can update your submission at any time up until the tender closing date and time. If you submit it and then realise you want to add some extra details, you can log back in. You can go back into the portal, you can make changes, and then you have to press the resubmit button again to accept, so it's accepted. If you're halfway through doing your application, you can log out and come back in and pick up where you left off. So as I mentioned before, keep an eye out for emails in your junk box. Any questions that you have regarding the tender, once the tender's been released, all questions must be submitted through the APET 360 forum, which will then be responded to by the relevant category manager, which is myself. So during the tender process, you can't make contact directly with the category managers. This is just to make sure that we maintain a high level of probity. If during this time you must speak to a representative local buy, please reach out to either Audrey or Liz, our customer relationship managers. As I said before, APET will only open on the first day of the arrangement, so the link will only be functioning as of that date. Excuse me. Make sure you complete all the questions in full and supply any supporting documents as identified. There will be some templates in there, which we ask you to download the template, complete the template, and just reload the template back up again. Other questions will just be by filling in the text box or the checkbox. You can refer to our Local Buy website or localbuyactive.com.au for our social media, and regular updates will be made via LinkedIn and Facebook. And we obviously are here to help you and to assist you through this process. If you have any questions or queries, please reach out to your customer relationship managers.
Okay, thank you, Michael. I just want to go over just a couple of things, and I know we probably sound like a broken record, but we just need to make this very, very clear because we often get a lot of these particular questions. As I mentioned before, if you are a current supplier, you must reapply, otherwise you will not be able to maintain your pre-qualified supplier status. Another important detail, as Michael mentioned, please do not reach out directly to the category manager, in this case, Michael, during that tender time. This is due to probity reasons. If there is a question, we respectfully request you must put it through that APET 360 forum. What will happen is the question will then be visible to everyone in that forum. Your name will not go up on it, but it gives everybody a fair and equal chance. If there is something that you find you really need an answer to straight away and it doesn't pertain directly to the tender, reach out to Audrey and myself, because it is a question pertaining to the tender. We will have to forward you back through that APET 360. Now, I can see also we've got a couple of our wonderful councillors who have joined us today. I will open up the forum to questions and answers, whether you want to put them in the chat. But if there are council online, I request that council, you're more than welcome to actually ask a question verbally of the suppliers, or if you want to make particular note. I know we've got a couple of regional councils on there. You're more than welcome to do so now.
We do have one question waiting, Liz, and that is our tender software become more user-friendly than 3 to 4 years ago?
Well, to be honest, I don't find it that difficult, with all due respect, and I have trouble even shopping on eBay. The software probably at peak times, yes, like anything, you might find it a little challenging. But to be brutally honest, I haven't had any suppliers with any issues of late. APET 360 has been updated in the last 6 months, and that's the platform that we use. Also, with that question,
cut in there, Liz. Sorry, the APET 360. They're constantly making updates and changes to that to improve the system. We've actually requested for some changes to be happen too, and they've also done that on our behalf. So, in answering that, it's not going to be the same system we used a few years ago. It should be a bit more user friendly.
Yep, so the APET 360 and vendor panel are two different systems as well, and APET 360 is our tender platform. That's another place where people do get confused with the actual software. So APET 360 is our online tender platform that we choose to use. And also the category managers cannot see those responses until afterwards the tender has closed off. So if you do have trouble and sort of go to the forum and say, look, I can't remember this, you can actually make changes to that tender until until 2 p.m. on the 28th Brisbane time. So even if you've submitted, you can go in, make a couple of changes and then resubmit. But we can't see your answers until everything has closed and they are opened up. So that seems to be a bit of a common question as well. The presentation reference suppliers providing both the best rate and upper maximum price on the same slide. Can you please explain further? Yes, I can. So best rate and upper or maximum price, or often as we say ceiling price. So obviously, with councils, they have maximum buying power, and that's why local buy, obviously with the regulations, we, for want of a better word, aggregated purchasing. So it makes sense that because of this, you will, as a supplier, offer your best rates to council. So if I use, for instance, council that is going to market and we have training services, and it might be that you are offering training services for a particular, let's say mental health. And you would normally charge councils $20 per hour. That is a maximum you can charge any council. But let's say that you have a council, and this is merely an example, like Redland City Council, and you go, you know what, they're my local council, I'll give it to them for $15 per hour. That's okay. So you can go under that maximum price, you just can't go above it. So on your schedule of rates, which you're able to update each 3 months, and of course that is with the permission of the category manager, because effectively it's got to be reasonable in regards to CPI. That's a maximum price. So you can't write down that you're on your rate cards, if there is a rate card on your schedule of rates, that you'll charge $20 and then go above that. You can certainly drop below, but you cannot go above that. Karen, I am a current vendor. I will be applying for category B and can see 3 of the main courses I think councils will be looking for are missing. They are real estate, property management and workplace. I provide these courses. Is there an opportunity to have these added to the list? Thanks, Karen. So we are a little bit broad sometimes in the description. So we often say including but not limited to, but certainly sort of put that in your brief on your, and you and I can certainly discuss this once you become a pre-qualified supplier. When you have the opportunity, and there is also a welcome email that will go out to pre-qualified suppliers on this, when you actually then upload your details in vendor panel, you can sort of put in there more in that regard. It's just a little bit hard to cover every particular description in a category. Reason we can't update that now is because the documents have gone through our legal team, etc., and are due to be released next week. So we just don't have the capacity to go in and be able to update those. But thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Thank you all very much, our current suppliers, as well as our prospective suppliers. And I look forward to speaking to you in the near future.